Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is the series where we break down the lessons we can learn, as GMs and as players, from episodes of Critical Role. Today we're tackling episode 33, Reunions. If you'd like to support this series, please consider joining my Patreon. Patrons who support me at $5 a month get every video I make early and ad-free, and every new patron really helps me out a lot. And first things first, I think it's finally safe.
How close together are the bars to this?
That's a relief. Yes, by this point in the show, Geek and Sundry had finally made the switch to subscribers only being able to comment in chat. But they also finally removed the chat from appearing on screen. Both of those were efforts to deal with the toxicity in the chat. And yeah, thank God and good riddance. The chat honestly still sucks. It's such a bad experience. Not everybody there is a monster, but reading the chat, it's always really frustrating. It's always filled with some of the worst takes of the community at any given time, and I personally just get no value from reading it or interacting with it. Anyway, let's get on with the episode. We have no Ashley for this session, but later on we'll talk about how Matt handles that. As the game opens, the group is in the middle of the dungeon of Castle Whitestone, and they discuss the old woman prisoner whose hand seemed to be an illusion. They cast Dispel Magic on the old woman and reveal a one-handed woman who is many years younger than she just seemed. This is Anna Ripley, one of the Briarwood's companions for the past 5 years. She's a scientist, although she does have some wizard levels too, thus the illusion. She's the one who has been trying to recreate the design for Percy's gun based on eyewitness accounts. She tortured Percy in the past, but Percy is currently wearing a hat of disguise, so she doesn't recognize him. Percy casts friends on her. No, Jesus, no, we just got through a whole copyright issue, come on. But thanks to the spell, she seems to trust him long enough to agree to some terms. Now, from a rules perspective, friends only lasts for a minute, and then the person you cast it on becomes hostile to you, and we don't see that happen, but then again, casting friends on her doesn't change her demeanor much. She still wants freedom and safe passage out of town in exchange for any info they want from her. So it's possible casting this spell just served as a way to reassure the party that she really was telling them the truth and trusted them as much as she could, at least as much as was reasonable. And as for the hostility, it's also difficult to imagine that a woman who tortured you and helped to murder your family could become more hostile toward you. Well, she doesn't know it's him, but that's the kind of woman she is, so... And she's already being pretty careful with her words so as not to piss off the heavily armed and angry adventurers around her. So it's totally possible she would feel the spell end, become hostile, and just not act on that at all. This speaks to something I really like about Ripley. She always feels like she's in control of the situation. I'm not saying that we as the audience or they as the players feel the same way. I'm saying that she as a character believes that. At least that's the impression I get whenever she interacts with the party. She feels like a classic criminal mastermind, which is really what Ripley is. She's got supervillain energy deep down in her DNA. But criminal masterminds are really hard to play in D&D. First of all, we as Dungeon Masters probably aren't as smart as a genius, unless you're subscribed to this channel, because then you are a genius. But because we aren't as brilliant as our characters, it can be really hard to come up with a super cool evil plan that lives up to the evil genius ideal. And then even if you can come up with a diabolical plan, our ideas of evil genius villains are very cinematic, very narrative focused. But D&D games aren't linear, and we can't script what our heroes will do, so because events can play out in such radically different ways than we might expect, that can make it really hard for our genius to actually feel like a genius. All the ways we plan to set them up don't actually pay off when the players don't interact with the villain in the way we imagined. But here, Ripley doesn't have a plan. She doesn't have any resources, and she doesn't have an edge over the party. But she still gives off that evil genius energy. Which means, by process of elimination, that you don't need any of that stuff for your villain to feel like an evil genius. All you need are vibes. Watch this episode or watch Ripley's appearances on the animated show, and you'll see the same mannerisms. She never raises her voice, she rarely gets frustrated, or at least doesn't allow the frustration to show for long, and she always has a smile. That smile that says, I know something you don't know. The lilt in her voice does the same thing.
I would be more than happy to be free of this desolate landscape. This whole town is a ruin of misery, and it has no color, has no culture. I've grown bored of it.
You say you're a scientist.
Yes?
Do you use magic?
I have no interest in paltry magics. I'm more of one who embraces the sciences as a means of understanding mystery. My whole purpose here was one giant chemical experiment.
Then who cast seeming on you?
That is to say, I don't have my tricks.
It's never outright stated, but in future scenes, some very deliberate word choice on Matt's part reveals that Ripley also never swears. That's optional, of course, but honestly, the choice to not swear only adds to the idea that she's in control. And it also adds to the supervillain vibe, honestly. Most supervillains we think of come from cartoons or superhero movies or spy movies, all of which are targeted at 5 to 15-year-olds, so I think the choice to never curse in a campaign full of cursing only enhances that vibe. So if you want to get some ideas for how to channel that kind of character, Ripley is a terrific place to start. She agrees on some terms of the deal with Vox Machina. She wants to get some stuff from her room, so apparently her capture is really recent. And Percy says that she'll be released if she tells them where to find Cassandra de Rolo, where to find Professor Anders, where to find the Briarwoods, and what's going on in the basement.
You are, at the moment, the luckiest person in Whitestone. Do you know why? So you're at the bottom of my list. I take off the hat.
They unlock her cell and let her out. They move into the castle proper, but surprisingly there are no guards anywhere. They look out the window and see that the guards and undead soldiers are out fighting the rebels. They've drawn a lot of attention away from the castle. As they walk, Vax is getting a lot of bad feelings about this mission, so he gives his Cloak of Elvenkind to Vex, despite her protests. This move actually serves several purposes. One, narratively, Vax wants to protect Vex and keep her safe. It's only natural. Two, from a role-playing perspective, the reason Liam is bringing this up is because his relationship with Laura's character is important to him, and he likes to remind them of that throughout the games. He likes to take private moments with all these other characters to highlight how much they mean to him and how much they mean to Vax. Three, from a practical standpoint, he literally doesn't need the magic item. It gives him advantage on stealth, and he already has some truly ridiculous bonuses to his stealth checks. And finally, with the goal of, let's say, alleviation, Laura has been struggling with a lot of rogue FOMO for the entirety of the campaign. She wanted to play a rogue when they first made characters years earlier. I guess she always or often plays rogues in video game RPGs, but Liam called dibs on the rogue first. And add to that the fact that the Beastmaster Ranger in the 2014 Player's Handbook is, how do we say this delicately, ass balls? That feeling has been getting worse as she's been playing a subclass that everybody on the internet immediately flagged as being, at best, underpowered. So giving her a Cloak of Protection is one step toward giving her the tools to have a better time playing her character the way she kind of wishes she could, with more of an emphasis on stealth. Also, this is so important, share your magic items. I've played with players who get really hoardy, especially if they're the ones who found something. They're quick to say, well, I found it, so I'm going to use it. I've usually encountered this from players who thought they were the only rational member of the party, and yeah, sometimes that's true. Sometimes the other player characters are goofy or borderline unhinged, but it's still a game, so share your magic items. This has been a public service announcement from someone who has literally seen players have real, genuine frustrations with each other because one of their characters would just hog stuff. Also, we're 46 minutes into the game and we haven't dealt with Ashley not being present, so Matt takes this chance to explain Pike's absence, more specifically by turning it into drama.
As you guys step into the hallway and you're moving forward, Pike's physical form is kind of drifting along you guys as she takes each step. You can see she's kind of stopped a little bit and she's lost in thought for a moment. And she kind of looks at the rest of you and says, there is a great evil here. And you can see part of her form kind of flicker and shake and almost blink for a moment, and then she resorts, she goes, something's willing me away. And with that, her form just vanishes.
Oh no.
Damn. As you feel this warmth on your hand, Vax, and the symbol of Sarenrae that you have embedded in your glove, you look down and it has a slight glow to it, similar to the color that her divine energy form had taken. And you see it just slowly fade, but not entirely. The symbol seems to just have this general, very faint radiation, a reminder, or at least what a small semblance of a connection to her in this dark, dark place.
Goodbye, Pike.
I think it speaks to how the cast of Critical Role plays that they react like this is actually a big deal. They give this the weight it would have in the world of the game. And this kind of reaction often inspires the criticism that the cast is playing things up for the audience, but really this is just how they play. They live and die by the reality of the game world. That's what makes the experience meaningful to them. They're really incredible players. That perspective is extremely rare. But also, I want to highlight exactly what Matt did there. He made it clear that this isn't a failing on Pike's part. She didn't fail to concentrate hard enough or anger her goddess this time. She is being blocked by powerful evil. This helps to add tension and raise the stakes, and it makes it even more important that they kill the bad guys. But also, with the glowing symbol of Sarenrae on Vax's glove, I suspect he's trying to imply that Pike is only gone for a bit, and hint that her presence is still with them. He's also validating Liam's choice to have Vax stitch the symbol of Sarenrae into his glove. In the last episode, he tried to use that symbol to fight undead, but it basically had no effect. But now, Matt is using that holy symbol to demonstrate Pike's connection to the party. In my head, I think of this like Pike being linked to the party and being able to reconnect with them later, like a homing signal, all thanks to the symbol. Maybe that's not how it's intended to be read, but that's how I interpret that detail. Additionally, we'll see later that adding that detail helped give Matt a way to channel some of Pike's power when he needed to. They go to Ripley's room and they take her current iteration of the gun. They also take the ammunition and her greater healing potion and her potion of flying. Then they go to Cassandra's room, but she's not there. Investigating the room, Taliesin rolls a natural 20. Nice, it's a good roll. But there's no sign of where Cassandra went. They ask Ripley where Cassandra would be, and whether she's here by force or by choice, since it certainly doesn't seem like she's living in the dungeon. But Ripley says Cassandra isn't allowed near the ziggurat or the distillery, both of which are below the castle, which certainly implies she's a prisoner. And speaking of the distillery, this is the first time Vox Machina has heard about this, and now they finally get some more information about what Ripley is doing, and a little bit about what the Briarwoods are working on. Ripley's project was dissolving Whitestone's titular Whitestone to create residuum in bulk. The residuum was then used in the reconstruction of the ziggurat. Ripley knows the Briarwoods work with, or work for, a third party, but she has no details and doesn't know what the ziggurat is for, but she knows it's right beneath the city. The party knows they gotta go downstairs and deal with all of this, but then Ripley asks a very enticing question about someone else on Percy's list. His old tutor-turned-turncoats, Professor Anders.
We need to finish
Underneath the
clearing this
garden.
house now.
Yes.
I don't know if they're even here.
We better move.
Let's go.
So,
Downstairs.
downstairs.
Oh boy.
You're asking about Anders, though. Do you wish to pay him a visit? You can see a smile on her face.
She's trying to
Not
Percy.
like Anders.
Percy, she's trying to bait you. She's trying to waste time right now. Come on.
Was your sister's keeper?
She's trying to don't lift Percy. La 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 la. Percy, come on.
He's
Come
probably
on.
with the Briarwoods.
Let's go.
Come on, he's not there.
I'm off
If-
sitting in the shadows, but I say, Percival, we need to cut off the head.
Is it
of
possible
this-
that my
the
sister would
head
be
of
with
the
him?
Snake.
It's very possible she's not here.
Anna,
Percy?
Yes.
shut up.
Very well.
Percival.
Percy, it's freezing in this
I only
castle.
say
Let's
because
go.
my whole...
Anna, and I notch an arrow and aim it right at her throat. Shut.
He's not capable of making good decisions right now.
Percy.
Where would this professor be?
I imagine his study. It's around the corner.
We'll check his study and then we'll go.
Fucking mouth. No.
Just his study and then we'll go.
Percy.
Even if he's there, if she's not there, we'll leave.
Go, lead the way.
No. No.
We're running out of time.
Brother, run and check the study.
Thank you.
No.
I start running towards the
Jesus.
direction that was described.
This is a fascinating moment, because Matt tells us Ripley doesn't like Anders, and that's why she's doing this. But honestly, I still can't tell whether Ripley is doing this just because she has a grudge against Anders, or also doing it just to mess with Percy, or to get a chance to see his gun in action for her own designs, or to make sure he has all the information and she's trying to be helpful, or because she's trying to get away and knows that that'll be a lot easier when they're above ground, before they go down into the dungeon again. Or because she's trying to set a trap for the party. That's Laura's and Marisha's theory. Or because Ripley's trying to clear out a threat before they can go underground so that Anders can't come from behind them and flank them. Or because she wants to stall before she has to go down underground and fight the Briarwoods. Or if Matt is having her say this for any of those reasons, to tempt Percy, or to prolong the revenge plot a bit longer, or to make sure they don't miss the chance to deal with Anders and find Cassandra before going underground, or because he has an idea for a specific scene he wants to see play out with Anders, or to give Ripley a chance to get away and fight another day, or even to stall the Briarwood encounter because he's not ready for the final fight. I think that last one is honestly pretty unlikely. He did say weeks earlier that he'd made maps for the entire city because he didn't know where they would go first. I suspect he's already got the ziggurat map ready, but you never know. Truly, Ripley probably says this for a combination of a bunch of these reasons, but what's the most important is this. When the other players start talking about how Ripley is just trying to mess with Percy, Matt keeps the pressure on and has Ripley continue to talk, because he knows that's dramatic. And it's awesome. Vax listens at Anders' door and hears a female voice let out a small cry in pain or worry. Marisha and Laura are frantically, worriedly mouthing to each other this is a trap, but it's out of their hands. If Cassandra is here, Percy absolutely isn't going to leave her behind. That's out of the question. Vax cracks the door and sees a man in a breastplate. We'll use this icon of Professor Anders from the show, even though his design is quite a bit different. And he's holding a girl with white streaks in her hair at knife point. This is Cassandra. No, that's Rogue from the X-Men. There we go. That's Cassandra. She's got tears running down her face, understandably. Anders reminds her that when he gives the word, she has to say what he told her to say. So trap confirmed. Vax gives the signal to the party, Jenga, and then kicks in the door. Now, why doesn't he wait for the rest of the party? Well, aside from the usual, it's because they're not sneaky, and the bad guy already knows they're coming, so it's going to be trivially easy to lose the chance to catch Anders by surprise and deal sneak attack damage. He unloads 88 points of damage into Anders, and for flavor purposes, obliterates one of Anders' eyes. Cassandra screams out that it's a trap, and then Anders slits her throat, and she starts to gush blood. Vax closes the distance and shanks Anders some more, but 2 suits of armor come to life, which, thanks to the cameras, we can see have the stats of Helmed Horrors. Anders also tries and fails to cast Confusion on Vax, and then Anders gives Bardic Inspiration to one of the suits of armor, because he's got Bard stats. There's something really cool Matt is doing with these enemies, but we'll talk about that in the next episode. Also, when they roll initiative, Taliesin rolls another natural 20. They make some jokes about him being the anti-Wheaton. Vax feeds Cassandra a healing potion and gets her conscious. Grog rushes into the room, thanks to his barbarian speed, but then he gets dominated by Anders and commanded to kill Vax. The cast is very worried about a barbarian being unleashed against them, but also, it would be an interesting fight.
I mean, it looks to you and goes, "Kill that one!" and points to Vax. And you look down at Vax with a grin, as now the bloodletting you've wanted so bad, your target lies before you.
Hulk versus Wolverine!
Grog delivers 2 mighty hits to Vax, but thanks to their Hero's Feast, he's able to break the domination at the end of his turn. Anders tries to get away using Dimension Door, but Scanlan counterspells it. One of the suits of armor charges at Vax and knocks him out, and then knocks out 2 of his death saving throws. Keyleth heals Vax, but Vex rushes and heals him as well, because Matt says she can't tell that he's been healed. Throughout this fight, Matt is being much more strict than normal with the cast about what they can see from the outside, which on some level makes sense, because the cast can see the room for much longer than their characters can. However, partially I think he's still trying to find the balance between how they've been playing, how 5e is designed, the experiences players want to have, and his desire to challenge them. For example, when Vax is injured but still standing, Matt makes it clear to the other players that Vax is facing away from them, so they can't see how badly hurt he is. Personally, that's not really how I run my games. After all, if facing doesn't matter for tactical combat purposes, I don't really think it should matter for healing purposes. But that's just me. Let me know in the comments below how you tend to handle that sort of thing, and the pluses and minuses of your approach. Meanwhile, Ripley breaks free from the group and drops a smoke bomb and flees. During the next round of combat, Percy rolls another natural 20 and is able to finish off Professor Anders. It's very appropriate that he's been the one to get the finishing blow on all the names on his list so far, but with his dying words, Anders has a few things to say.
This land has a greater destiny. You and that fool Ripley, you place your faith in toys and dust. You seek the transient truths.
How close am I at this point?
You're stepping up to him.
Perfect.
And as you're doing this, as you pull the mask down in front of you,
pull the mask down.
He says, "I die to rise again. We are his blood."
I put my gun in his mouth to shut him the fuck up. You're the face I saw when murder entered my heart. This is your doing, and I pull the trigger.
Some of the stuff he was saying sounded kind of important. Once again, Matt is a master of delivering exposition. He knew Anders was dying, so he took this opportunity to throw out a few quotes before it was too late, to advance the larger plot a little bit. Percy kills Professor Anders, whose name vanishes off of his gun barrel. Vex says, "Darling, take the mask off," the line that launched 1,000 ships. They're eventually able to kill the final suits of armor. It takes a long time. They have a frustratingly high armor class. And then Vax takes a quick moment to talk to Keyleth.
Are we out of combat now?
You guys are currently out of combat.
Okay. I'm going to, clutching my bleeding belly, walk over toward Keyleth and say that was a close one.
Yeah. You know, I kind of feel like we've been here before. Oh, right, we have been here before.
You know I'm in love with you, right? And I kiss her.
Oh!
Everyone.
Persistent cough.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break. All right. Quick
I want to see what color you turned. Oh my god, yeah!
First of all, don't steal kisses. We talked about that before. People you kiss should know you're about to kiss them. That's just good life advice. Second, here's a lesson. When the group gives you a perfect dramatic beat like that, that's the perfect time to take a break. But also, this is the first time the players in the Vox Machina campaign have ever dealt with romance in D&D. Now, Vax's affections have been slowly building and being foreshadowed over the course of the stream. Laura had picked up on some of these vibes as early as episode 15. Liam has discussed that there was a moment in the Underdark, and he doesn't remember what that moment was, but there was a moment where Keyleth did something or said something, and it resonated with Liam as something that Vax would be attracted to. He privately asked Matt if romance is something that could happen in D&D and how it would work. He wasn't asking because Matt was Marisha's boyfriend. The cast are all mature enough to know that Liam, a happily married man, could play a romance with Marisha, who was also in a happy couple, without any lines getting blurred. The cast of Critical Role especially has an advantage in this department because they're all actors, so they're used to playing out romance with other people without feeling any of the actual feelings toward that human being. But even if they hadn't been actors, their style of play basically ensured this probably wouldn't be an issue. There was a lot of flirting in their campaign already, usually with NPCs played by Matt, and obviously none of them think that Matt actually loves them in that way. So through that practice, they've already basically begun building a trust that they can play out romantic feelings without taking them personally as individuals. Of course, while talking about romance and flirting, we should address the fact that Scanlan had been flirting with Pike for literally years of gameplay. But Pike never reciprocated his feelings, nor did she rebuff his advances. Their dynamic just existed in this constant limbo of flirting, which is why I say that Vaxleth marks the cast's first foray into romance. Now, I've mainly been discussing the major concern that players might take these romantic feelings too far and start feeling them out of game as well, because I think that's the biggest risk of role-playing romance in D&D, and it's probably what most people are probably worried about. That being said, that may not be the only concern you have with romance in your games. There are some people who don't ever want to deal with romance in D&D, either because it distracts from the reason they play the game and they don't find it fun, or because it actively harms their play experience and potentially even feels uncomfortable or disruptive. So this is a Session 0 topic. It's on my checklist, which we're going to talk about in a video next month. If somebody doesn't want any romance in their game, it's best to just honor that. But also, something doesn't need to be off limits to still be a bit awkward or uncomfortable. As we can see from the cast's reaction, the dynamic really became very strange, as none of the cast wanted to shut down the romance, but they all got very awkward whenever this romance came up between Vax and Keyleth. That happens for quite some time. The best comparison might be middle school or high school kids, when the first members of their friend group start dating, and everybody gets really weird about it. They're not trying to be unsupportive, but you can't deny that the dynamic of the group did immediately change. If that's not something that you want to deal with in your games, then you can, and you should, let the other players know that. But also, weirdly, the fact that Critical Role has shown so many people that romantic stories can be told through the medium of D&D might actually make it less likely that your group will have these strong reactions. Clips from Critical Role can help illustrate what some abstract concepts might look like when they actually play out at the table, which is really invaluable. But this is a complex subject, and I'm sure I haven't covered every possible side of it. So, let's discuss this in the comments below. The romance between Keyleth and Vax has only just begun, and there is a lot to learn from it.
Let's go and roll.
Folks, we don't know what we're doing. None of us know what we're doing.
Percy scolds Vax for rushing in before them, so long before the rest of the party got there, if for no other reason than because Vax kind of got Percy's sister's throat slit. He reunites with his sister, and she's apologetic for her role in the trap to get them killed, and he's apologetic for leaving her behind when he escaped. She wants to get her armor and join them on this mission to take down the Briarwoods. Percy is reluctant, but she's stubborn and strong-willed. All the things that have allowed her to survive for these past few years. Meanwhile, Trinket chases down Ripley, but she makes it outside and escapes his visual range. And the party decides it's not worth it to chase her out of the castle, they should just stay together and let her live to fight another day. They destroy Anders' body in the fireplace, gross, to make sure he doesn't come back from the dead. Smart. They find letters discussing a few things. One of these is the removal of key magical defenses for a meeting in Amon, which explains how Uriel was charmed by Silas Briarwood. They also find warnings of the arrival of Secret Assumes spies before they arrived in Whitestone, notes on the ziggurat construction, notes on throwing people off the trail of the Briarwoods and keeping them away from Whitestone, and many references to how the undying king shall return, we are his blood. The letters aren't signed, but they find another letter in the same hand that is signed, by Lord Riskel Daxio, a member of the Taldori Council and the same man who constructed their keep. Hi, Oreo, here, you can come up. Scanlan asks for one of Ripley's guns, and Percy gives it to him, and then Scanlan tries to do a trick and flip the gun, so the party takes it away. I forgot that Scanlan was trying to get a gun this early in the campaign. This is going to be a whole thing later on in the campaign. We learn Cassandra's story. After Percy got away and Cassandra was peppered with arrows, Father Raynal, the priest of Palor, found her and healed her. She worked to build the first rebellion, which made their move 2 years into the occupation of Whitestone. And they failed. The Briarwoods knew their every move before they made it. She was taken captive and trapped inside her own house to be used as leverage in case they needed her. She says her hate was too strong for Silas to control her. She read about tactics and strategy and found allies in the castle and made contact with the rebellion from inside the castle, feeding them information. Percy is so happy to have her back, but of course he and the other members of Vox Machina are a little suspicious. So they discuss how they can check to see if she's under Silas's mind control. Matt quickly does say the only thing they've seen work against that mind control is Greater Restoration, but Keyleth doesn't have it prepared, and Pike is gone. Percy has a moment of insight, and this is a really clever solution.
Wait, it was Greater Restoration?
Yeah.
You have that?
I have a potion. This should solve all of our problems.
Or you could save that for when one of us becomes a vampire.
No, it'll be, and I'm pulling out a potion bottle. It says if you are controlled, this could fix it.
She puts her hand out, her like leather glove pulled over it now. You've never seen her quite militant before, and it's a really interesting visual to you.
I look at her.
And she drinks the potion, whole thing down, takes off.
That was actually a minor healing potion. I was just seeing if you did it intentionally.
She gives a wry grin and kind of wipes her mouth. But I recognize that terrible earthy taste. Tosses the crystal decanter to you.
Clever boy.
You always were the clever one.
I figured it was worth a shot.
That's all.
Great.
That's what we're gonna do.
Cassandra tells them about what little she knows about the Briarwoods' plan. They talk about somebody called the Whispered One a lot. The party worries that this could be the same entity that has taken root inside of Percy. As a sign of solidarity with Percy and Cassandra, Scanlan casts Seeming on the party, turning all the men into Percy and all the girls into Cassandra, and giving Trinket Cassandra's streaks of white hair and Percy's glasses, and all of them have the de Rolo symbol on their chests. Scanlan says, "We are all de Rolos today." It's a really wonderful sentiment. I love it. The party moves down to the Undercroft, the catacombs beneath the castle. Taliesin rolls another nat 20 on a perception check, because of course he does. The temperature drops, and 3 ethereal forms enter the room and attack. Matt even declares that they look like the same kind of creature that possessed Vax and Keyleth back in episode 21. As I discussed in that episode, I don't think of possession as being an especially fun mechanic. But this is a second chance. This should be fine, right? Percy rolls another nat 20 on initiative, that's 5 so far this episode, and thanks to his initiative, he gets to go first.
Yeah, screw it. I'll take a shots with the pepper box.
Okay.
I'll take my first shot.
Go for it.
That can't be right. Just double checking. 20. Natural 20.
Okay.
With a different dice?
Different die, of course, with a different die.
Shut the fuck up!
You're the Jesus.
I'm the devil. I am the devil,
It's that smoke monster
and I
in
have come
you.
to do the devil's work.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Percy's gun is enchanted to do fire damage, and I believe it can also do cold damage, but not all of the barrels are enchanted. He tried shooting the ghost with a non-enchanted shot, and it passed through with no effect, so he takes a fire shot next. Why am I lingering on each of his shots for so long? This is not something I normally do. What am I setting up?
I spin.
No, why?
Shoot with fire.
Okay.
What the fuck?
Get out!
Take a
Get
picture.
out! Get out!
Right now.
Taking a picture.
Get out! You're the anti-weed.
He's had like 8
This
tonight.
isn't.
How many is that?
I don't know.
It's 7. 7 is the number of natural 20s. Keyleth, Vax, and Grog are possessed by the ghosts right at the top of the battle. And of course, they've got no cleric this time to use Turn Undead, and now they're really starting to panic. But at the end of Vax's turn, Matt has him roll a religion check. Vax rolls an 18, and Matt describes a warm glow coming from the Sarenrae symbol on Vax's glove. And he hears Pike's voice in his ear, assuring him that things are okay. And then the ghost is forced out of Vax's body. This is totally a hand wave from Matt, so they don't all have to kill themselves getting rid of these ghosts, which would not be a fun experience. But it also has an emotional impact on the party, demonstrating how Pike still has their back. And it continues to validate Vax's decision to stitch the holy symbol onto his glove. Of course, the ghost that got pushed out of him goes right into Percy, who fails to resist and rolls his third natural one of the night. See? He rolls low too, just like anybody else. Vax tries to punch the ghost out of him, but sadly he just can't land a hit with his fist. He only manages to land hits with his knives. Cassandra reveals she has rogue levels when she does sneak attack damage to Grog. That's pretty cool. But Scanlan casts Spirit Guardians early in the fight, and this is able to destroy the ghost inside of Grog. Rules as written, this would have no effect on the ghost, but that's not fun and it sucks, so whether or not Matt ignored that rule on purpose, I'm glad he did. Here's the thing. Ghosts are a great way to make your cleric feel like a badass at the expense of other players taking turns with their own agency. If that's a thing you want, that is something the ghost does. I personally don't think I'm likely to have a ghost possess a player character. It seems like it's a nightmare. It would be so much more interesting and dramatic to have them possess an NPC, because then you get to have all the drama of the debate of whether you should fight a possessed ally and hurt them if it doesn't necessarily hurt the ghost itself, but without robbing players of the chance to do anything besides rolling exactly the dice the DM tells them to do on exactly their turns when the DM says to do whatever the DM decides. And honestly, I'm a bit surprised Matt didn't just give the players a prompt for what sort of character to roleplay, so the players could actually have some fun as these ghostly characters. Give them the name of a Rolo ancestor and a few sample lines of dialogue to utter as they try to kill the heroes, and this could actually become fun. But like I said in my Temple of Doom video, I'll have to make a whole other video about mind control in D&D at some point down the road. Anyway, as they knock Percy out, they realize that only the radiant damage from Scanlan's Spirit Guardians is doing any damage to the ghosts when they're inside the player characters' bodies. Mostly they've just been dealing damage to their friends and hurting them for no real reason. What a cool mechanic. They force the ghost out of Percy by knocking Percy unconscious, and thankfully, the ghost's possession doesn't recharge. So instead, the ghost just melee strikes Percy and takes away 2 of his death saving throws and almost kills him for good. But then Scanlan mocks the ghost to death, and that's the end of the encounter. They take a short rest, and then they push further into the dungeon. And that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with another episode of Critical Role Demystified in a little bit less than 2 weeks to discuss episode 34, Race to the Ziggurat. There are some dope-ass moments in this episode that I am really excited to get to. In the meantime, you should subscribe to the channel. I make new RPG videos every Monday and Thursday. You can join the Discord community to hang out with other awesome people. There are always folks who are catching up with Critical Role or recommending other actual play shows, so if you like this YouTube channel, you will love the Discord server. You can follow me on Twitch. I try to go live at least once a week, and subscribe to my newsletter to get occasional updates about what I have going on. Last week, I posted a really terrific video about Temple of Doom. Making this video nearly killed me, so please check it out. It would really mean a lot to me. Until next time, play fair and have fun.